in that sense. I mean,
Okay.
obviously, yeah.
Okay. Well, let me approach a couple of these thoughts at this time. Okay. For the people that don't know what you're talking about, the Anunnaki is reportedly were the persons that were here before us, and actually potentially the story being that they had created that they came from another planet. All right, back whatever period of time it would have been, and that they would have been some of the first visitors from outer space, and that literally created many of the basically created human beings to work under their command to do mining, on the globe, on the globe of Earth, so that they could take gold back to their planet. And the implication is in the stories. Again, this was part of the clay tablets that I referred to, that were the Sumerian clay tablets describing the incoming of Nibiru. Now, according to the deciphering of those clay tablets, which, by the way, I equate it sort of like a diary of some people literally living and writing these things down 4,000 years ago in the nation of Sumeria, which is now Iraq, Iran area on the globe today. I believe that exists. I'm afraid that's really a mistake, and it doesn't affect religion at all. The bottom line is some the very staunch Christian would say that God created the earth and the people on the earth, and that was the end of it. But see, that would shortchange my God, because why would he just take out of all of the unbelievable creation of the universe, of the whole thing, why would he just select one lousy little planet that's over here as his only location to put living beings? That doesn't make sense, even religiously, actually, if you apply common sense to your religion also.
Oh, UFOs and aliens no doubt exist. I mean, but what exactly are they? I mean, because...
Oh, yeah, right. And of course...
They could be demonic beings for all we know.
Well, and I would think, using good and evil as, black and white, left and right, being good over here and evil here, and we all pretty much know the difference between it. You can't say that you don't. I think the problem, and it remains to be seen, myself, I absolutely believe in alien life. I absolutely believe aliens exist on the face of the earth. Mm-hmm. I believe that aliens are working hand in hand with people at high levels of governments on the globe. I believe aliens affected Adolf Hitler. And that's a little spooky, because that would indicate, from our point of view, that they were giving a helping hand to the evil side. But we have to realize something, which is really scary stuff. First off, if you accept the fact that aliens are out there and have been zipping in and out of the globe of our Earth for tens of thousands of years, or maybe even 100,000 years, I don't know, which I do believe, absolutely, we have a real problem, and that is that we are no more advanced than a well-grown frog compared to them. And the idea of are they going to come to help us? That's been a question, assuming alien life exists, which I do believe. To not believe that is foolishness. Some of the admissions that we've gotten from
I believe it likely, Mr. Fletcher, but I mean, the only thing is, if they were some sort of beings, fifth-dimensional beings, for instance, demonic, whatever, fallen angels, they could make themselves appear however they want. So all these meetings with government officials, they could just say they are from some other planet.
Oh, well, whatever. But see, I've done it strictly and totally on the basis of the development of products and things of that in the last 50 years.
Okay.
There's no way that we went from horse and buggy to landing on the moon in 75 years. Right. You know, I mean, you know, without assistance.
Right.
You know, I'm sorry. You know, and do you have any idea? When we get into this a little bit, if you want to, do you have any idea how many crop circles there are that have taken place in the last few years?
Oh yeah, I've seen a couple myself. I mean, I've seen dozens, probably at least 30 or 40 UFOs in my life.
Oh, okay, so. Good. Now here's and that's great, because you're a step up on an awful lot of people by the fact that you had seen that many. Yeah. But the point I was going to make is like 25,000 crop circles over the last 20 years or so. You know, the number gets mind-boggling, and the intricacy and what they are. Some of them are blueprints. Some of them are astronomical diagrams of space and outer space and planetary constructions. Some of it is medical. Some of it's other types of high-level scientific information. Now, why it's being delivered in that configuration, I'm not sure. But I will say that there are high-level people in the United States that know when they're going to be and when they're going to come, where they're going to show up, take the information down, and then whatever goes from there. Why that's happening, I'm not sure. But those are created by entities off of this earth. Yeah. There's no question about that.
Right.
I have very good video. I say very good. It's not very good. It's good enough to be understood. It's not not a Hollywood production video. But I have a couple of good videos of the 18 to 20 inch bronze-colored balls coming down and just going over the field and swinging around in a circle and creating an entire crop circle in 4 seconds.
Yeah.
We have that on film, see? We have that on film. Now, if you go to somebody and say, oh, I don't believe in anything, you know, say, well, please explain this to me and to the Air Force.
Well, I'm 100% with you there. I mean,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in terms of, a lot of people ask, why doesn't, or do I think that there will be, let's call them space entities, that would come in and assist or help us or salvage us in the last minute before this takes place?
I hope so.
Apparently, they did not back during the time of the Sumerians, because the way the writings go in these clay tablets, the beings that they called Anunnaki, all right, those guys got back in their spaceships and left when they knew it was headed in. And they took off, and they left those mining, very low-level IQ grunts that were back here digging the holes and pulling out the gold and doing that stuff on their behalf, working like slaves, so to speak, or slave entities. They were stuck. They were just there. And the Anunnaki got in their spacecraft and got out of there before they hit the fan. So anyhow, it would appear, if they couldn't do it then, if they had the ability to come from either a planet that maybe one of them, it could be that one of the 5 moons going around with this with the planet X. It could be that there's life on one of those moons. I don't know, and I don't have any. That's my own supposition. So don't go any place with that. But that's a possibility. I don't think if and people say, well, why wouldn't they save us? Why wouldn't they salvage Earth, do what they could to protect it, etc. It could be that the blowing up or destruction of something like Nibiru would affect 5 other planets that are more important than Earth, someplace.
Right. No,
I
like the theory where they say that the aliens are leaving us alone because we are our own species and we are responsible for ourselves. And if we destroy ourselves, then that's just the way it's supposed to be. Right.
Okay, but that doesn't bring into account Nibiru. You follow me? On that part of it. The idea that we make our own bed and we got to sleep in it. That certainly is true, and we've not broken any great records in terms of humanity for the last 1,000 years. That's for sure. We are the most messed up thing that you could ever imagine. Well, you watch television, you watch the news. What in the world? And the programs that are popular, the junk that's popular on television, embarrasses me. And like I said, I told you, I was in the rock and roll. Shame on us. The condition we're in right now. Shame on us all, as far as that's concerned. And I don't want to get into don't want to become a preacher here, but no. That's the best way to put it. I'll tell you. Shame on us.
I have a creepy question for you.
Go ahead. I'm ready.
This one might creep you out of it. So, like you mentioned earlier, how the Anunnaki created humans to mine gold. I agree with that. And let me say this now, so people don't get the wrong idea. That is the study of Dr. Sitchin, who was a fellow that did the analysis of the clay tablets from Sumeria. And that was his story. Okay, so go from there. So so what if when they're about to pass, and since Nibiru is supposedly their home planet or home star or whatever, or one of the planets orbiting Nibiru. So what if when they pass, what if like that whole rapture story is true, and what if it's not God taking us up, but what if it's these aliens, and what are they going to do? Are they going to eat us? Are they just going to start eating a lot of the population, like cattle?
Well, see, the big problem is we don't know. And it's my belief, again, it's just from studying just a multitude of things that many years ago I could have cared less. But unfortunately, I've been put in a position where I've had to study things that I may not have had an interest in. But we don't know. Let's take the average, these grays that are, been reported as a primary worker that's here all the time, flying in on the different things and doing the experiments on people that have been picked up.
They scared the hell out of me.
Yeah. Okay, it would, boy, if you weren't scared, if you were picked up by one and a group of them and put up and had experiments done on you.
They are the red UFOs, and if I see a red UFO, I do a prayer real fast and just I command it to leave, basically. And they are very much telepathically linked, so they will usually listen.
So we get to talking about the Greys. I think the Greys are a working class.
Yeah.
A programmed entity to carry out tasks. I think they are predominantly the characters that are manning the UFOs, the saucers, and things of that sort. Some of them are unmanned, just non-remote controlled objects. Some of them are controlled, like I say, a saucer, like the ones that crashed in Roswell. And there was 2 or 3 of them that crashed there, according to FBI papers that I have from Hoover, FBI Director Hoover at that time. Anyhow, I think they are just a working class, sort of a robot, if you will, and they carry out what they're supposed to, and that there is other thinking entities above them that would control them, and et cetera, et cetera. According to okay, my wife is just telling me what time it is. According to I totally lost my direction here. I believe those little entities, they are what they are, and I think a remote control situation. According to many people that have come forward with a thing called the Discovery Project? I think that's what it is.
The taller ones are clones.
The Disclosure Project, that's what it is. Disclosure Project. These guys, a couple of them I know personally. Their summation is that there's as many as 300 individual different space entities that have been coming in and out for so long around Earth, and there's that many of them.
300 different types of alien species. Yep.
Yes, I think that was the number that they had come up with. And the crab, when you really get into it, and as a couple of our astronauts, a couple of the guys, what's his name, went on the moon, Edgar Mitchell. Edgar Mitchell went on to the moon a couple of times, twice I think. He I had the recording of it. As soon as they landed, he said, "Oh, they're here. They're ahead of us." And their craft is parked up on the edge of the crater over there, and it's gigantic, and I can't believe it, but they're here, and just like we talked about, they're already up here waiting for us, and you go to the fellow that was in charge of Skunk Works operations that created all our spacecraft designs and all of that. Just before he died, he said, "We have been flying, we have had the capability to go to the outer planets and fly around the planets for years and years." And he says, it's never going to be made public, but we've been doing it for years and years. And when these guys at that level, he had no reason to lie. He was dying, I mean, literally on a deathbed kind of a thing. He said, we've been doing that for, and they're talking about warping space and time. It's the only way you can go between the planets, etc. That is
portal wormhole
has been an old theory for long. And the truth is, and by the way, you get into that a little bit in the DVDs. The bending space and time is the only way. You can literally end up going forward in time, back in time. Time and space is a graphic entity that can be varied and altered. And once you can figure out how to bend it, you can instantaneously go from a craft 50 miles over top of New York City to 50 miles over top of the moon.
Anywhere.
And do it within a blink of an eye. These entities that do exist out there, they have that ability. But they also have the ability to help us or not. And I don't think the way the people at the highest levels of our corrupted government have been scurrying around building their rat holes to hide in, I don't think they've had any indication that any space entity is going to come down and help us out when Nibiru comes back again.
I think they will.
That's good. Well,
I think they're going to be crushed underneath their underground cities.
Excuse me?
And
I don't know. And I don't know.
It's a global earthquake here. When this thing passes and the tectonic plates realign and they move back up, this is going to be a worldwide earthquake every place will be at least a 9.0 on the Richter scale. Some places 15.0.
Yeah, I believe it will be. We're looking, if it does not get pulled away, in a manner such that it doesn't do this major damage, we're going to have tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes, meteor storms, and all of the above in a very short period of time on the globe. I don't know how well off these people are going to be underground with their facilities. And I'm going to get out of here. But you mentioned it earlier, and you want to have another little thing to just add to the soup here, so to speak. We have 130 nuclear power plants in the United States.
Yeah.
And when they go through their melt thing, it only takes one, but
that's when we're going to need their help.
If half of them go through this meltdown situation because there's no way to control them, so you're talking 100 years before the general area, any one of those is even livable again.
Yeah, and if all of them go off, you can forget about it. So we're definitely going to need their help.
So the whole thing, I'll tell you one thing, there will be a lot of people praying that never believed in God.
Yep.
That's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, that's another thing. Like Revelations, it mentions, Jesus will come in the sky as a thief in the night and all that stuff. But I believe a lot of that stuff is just symbolism for Nibiru. And when people see Nibiru and they see all the destruction, they're going to realize that a lot of what they learned in the Bible was symbolism and that the government was lying to. I don't think anybody's going to trust the government, especially the people who work under them in the military. The military people that they have trying to protect them as bodyguards. They're going to turn on them, I think.
They're not going to know when the martial law is declared. Basically, they'll just go in. That's total militarily controlled, every street corner, so to speak. But they're not going to know. They're going to be convinced it's because of terrorism or Ebola disease or this thing or that thing. They're not going to be told what it is. By the time that's, again, I'm going to say 4 to 6 months ahead of the first sightings. See, then when the sightings take place, the bad guys, they're already going to be down their hideouts, and they don't care what goes on. They're just going to lock the doors and start eating their dry foods.
True.
And they're going to be praying that some of them come through it, and I have no idea how long they think they may have to be underground, but they will have to be for a pretty long time.
A long time,
because according to archaeologists digging up the old dirt that gives that story, the scientific story of what took place, by digging into the dirt and doing the layer thing. The last time Nibiru passed close, it was 100 years of no vegetation in the dirt.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, sports fans. Hey, it's too bad we didn't have anything to talk about.